Let's start with our draft grade for the New York Giants. And when I look at what they were able to accomplish in this year's draft class, look, I fluctuated back and forth on what to do, but I ended up giving them a B. I liked the overall haul that they had. You see it here on the list. I know Daniel Jones surprised some people with where they picked him, but you go through that draft, coming back in for DeAndre Baker. I love that pick, and I thought Julian Love in the fourth round was tremendous value as well.
Yeah, tremendous value to get a guy like Julian Love in the fourth, a guy who could be a starter for them as their nickel corner. I'm going to go and take the Washington Redskins, and I think the Redskins actually knocked it out of the park with their draft. This is a team that notoriously doesn't draft well, but it seems like they figured it out. And the reason they figured it out, because right at the top of the board, they take Dwayne Haskins, then they come back and get Montez Sweat. They take another brand name player in Bryce Love in the fourth round, and then Terry McLaurin in the third round. So all in all, the Washington Redskins had a good haul. And you give them added points because they were able to get their franchise quarterback without having to move up or mortgage a farm. When you're a team that is drafting like they've been drafting, to be able to get a franchise quarterback without having to give up a lot of future capital speaks volumes about your team's ability to be able to build and to build for the future the right way.
All right, let's keep it moving here. Let's go to the Dallas Cowboys, and a team without a first-round pick. Obviously, that big trade there for Amari Cooper, and I like what they were able to do, especially with Tristan Hill. When you bring him into this defensive front, you're going to be coached up the way he's going to be coached up. I think it's an outstanding fit, and I knew early on in the process they had high grades on McGovern, somebody who's very strong and stout inside, doesn't have to play right away, but it's going to provide outstanding depth for them along the interior of that offensive line.
Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys were smart, they were efficient, they were able to pick up some solid players, some players that can be contributors, and that's all you want at the end of the day, guys that can come in and compete, can help your team kind of make that next push for a Super Bowl. I'm going to say that the Philadelphia Eagles, because they went to the Super Bowl so recently, they just needed to kind of retool, reload. They didn't necessarily have to do a rebuild, and I think they were able to do it in this draft. Andre Dillard in the first round is an outstanding addition to an offensive line that is regarded as the best in football. You get him to back up Jason Peters. Jason Peters can kind of drop some nuggets of wisdom on him as he prepares for that big role. But then you're able to come back and get Miles Sanders. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside comes in to be an Alshon Jeffrey clone. And lo and behold, the Philadelphia Eagles knock it out of the park. I'm gonna give them a B+ for their efforts.
Buck, let's get to the other side here. Let's go to the AFC East, and why don't you start us off here with the New York Jets?
I think the New York Jets may have grabbed the best defensive player in the draft with Quinnen Williams. Being able to get Quinnen Williams at the third overall selection is a find for them. Look, they've done this consistently under Mike McCann's tenure. What they do is they take the best player available, and he was certainly the best player available. Big, physical, disruptive force. Put him alongside Leonard Williams. They should be up and running. But even after that, Ja'Kai Polite in the third round. I think it's a risk-reward pick, but I think the reward could be well worth the risk based on how he plays in between the lines. If he matures and grows up and avoids some of the stuff off the field, this is a guy that could be a Pro Bowl player for the Jets.
Yeah, to me, I think the key to this draft is going to be those second and third picks. Polite and Adoga, as talented as anybody, but inconsistent. If they can find some consistent performance from those two, it's going to be an outstanding draft for this Jets football team. Quinnen Williams, a great value where they're able to get him. All right, let's go to the Miami Dolphins and what they're able to accomplish here. I end up giving them an A. And part of the reason, look, I love what they did in the first round. I thought Christian Wilkins was one of the safest picks in the entire draft class because he's somebody, the character's off the charts. I got somebody that can penetrate against the run and the pass, very disruptive. But you see no second-round pick in there, Buck. And there's somebody that's going to show up and represent that second-round pick in the trade for Josh Rosen. And not only were they able to acquire him, they were able to trade down in the second round before making that move. So they got tremendous value to go get a player I thought was a top 10 pick last year, a top 10 talent last year for a lower second-round pick. I love that move.
No, I actually love that move. I think they did a really good job of kind of adding the franchise quarterback, and it gives them options because if Josh Rosen doesn't kind of show them what they want in a franchise quarterback, they can go right back to the draft next season, and we think the 2020 class at quarterback could be spectacular. I'm going to go to the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills, to me, continue to be a team that is consistent when it comes to drafting. A- for their efforts. And part of that is fueled by Ed Oliver is a perfect fit for the Buffalo Bills on the inside. A team that was desperately looking for an under tackle, a guy that can be a disruptive penetrator, a guy that can play on the underside of the ball and exhibits all of the motor and hustle that Sean McDermott wants. I think he's perfect. Then you follow it up. Cody Ford being a solid player that can play inside and outside. You also get Dawson Knox. I just like that they were able to bring in a lot of blue white-collar players that are ready to kind of bring the hard hat and the lunch belt.
Yeah, I thought there was a chance they might trade up for Ed Oliver, so to stay right where they were and have him fall in their lap, tremendous value there. All right, the New England Patriots, I'll be honest with you, Buck, it felt like it just had a horseshoe. I mean, it was unbelievable. Every single round, a great player was falling to him. N'Keal Harry, outstanding. Joejuan Williams is a classic New England corner who you can match up 1 week with tight ends, the next week with a big wide receiver. Chase Winovich, who plays with an unbelievable motor coming off the edge. He fell to him in round 3. And then Damian Harris, a lot of people felt was a top 3 running back in this draft to fall to him where they got him. I just thought they found value throughout the draft.
Yeah, I did believe they found value. And Damian Harris is a guy that I would keep an eye on. Talk about the rotation that the Patriots typically use, especially down the stretch and in the playoffs. They like to have a rugged runner. He is someone that should complement Sony Michel when they go to that powerful running game.
All right, let's start here with the team that owned the number 1 overall pick. They did something that hadn't been done since 1982 and 1983. They went quarterback in the first round back-to-back years. And when I look at the overall draft grade for the Arizona Cardinals, I'm going to go A-. Now, the Kyler Murray thing I get. For everybody else, yeah, I don't see how you do that. I can justify it because of the connection there with Cliff Kingsbury. If it was up to me, I'm probably just going to stick with Josh Rosen. I draft Nick Bosa and go, but I understand it. I like what they did with Byron Murphy. Andy Isabella, that was a little early for me, but I thought round 4, Hakeem Butler, tremendous value.
Yeah, tremendous value throughout these picks. And you're right, I wasn't in love with the Andy Isabella pick. However, I believe they're trying to build a fast break basketball team with Kyler Murray playing point guard, having some speed outside on the wings when you talk about Andy Isabella joining Christian Kirk, and then having big fellas, Hakeem Butler being a guy that can be a monster inside. And don't forget about Caleb Wilson, another big body that can throw too. Expands the strike zone, allows Kyler Murray to be comfortable passing the ball. I want to talk about Russell Wilson and his crew and what the Seattle Seahawks were able to do.
Jump in.
Look, John Snyder and the Seattle Seahawks have been able to win consistently because they've been able to draft well. I think this was another solid draft for them. I'm going to give them a B- for their efforts. They started out the first round with a guy like L.J. Collier, who gives them a Michael Bennett-like player on the edge. Look, power rusher, a guy that is stout against the run, doesn't necessarily wow you with his athleticism, but it's the effort, the strength, and the physicality that really gets it done. Then you go back and you look what they were able to do in the second round. DK Metcalf, who is a perfect fit. We think about this offense and what Russell Wilson has been able to do creating plays. Well, now you get someone that can take the top off the defense, and when they do come up to throw off a play action, he's a guy that can be a vertical threat for them.
Yeah, I like what they did in this draft. And Ugo Amadi from Oregon, one of my favorite players, can play inside at the nickel position. He's outstanding. And Ben Burr-Kirven from the University of Washington, he's going to play in sub packages. He'll be in that dime linebacker role and also going to be outstanding on special teams. A lot of good special teams players they got in this group.
And it's a big phase. It's a big, important part of the game. We talk about offense and defense, but special teams matters. And for the Seattle Seahawks, the way that you get your jersey is on special teams, and that gives you an opportunity to get in the game on Sunday.
All right, let's get to the 49ers here, and a team I love what they did. Anytime you get the best player in the draft, which is what they were able to accomplish, you're doing something right, and that's what they got with Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa, early on in the process, before we knew who was going to have the number 1 pick, this was the target. I mean, this was the guy. You get the number 1 pick, you end up with Nick Bosa, and here the 49ers, they don't end up with the number 1 pick and still get the best player in the draft. I love what they did. I gave him an A. And Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurd, 2 very versatile athletic playmakers I think that Kyle Shanahan's going to have a lot of fun with, Buck.
He is going to have a lot of fun with both of those guys. And I love Jalen Hurd's pick because I think there's a lot of versatility, a lot of creativity that will take place in San Francisco when it comes to trying to find ways to put the hand in the ball of the playmakers. To put the ball in the hands of the playmakers. I said that wrong. But I like what they've been able to do. And so when you have a team that is chasing the LA Rams, you want to make sure that you have enough weapons to get up to speed. And when you think about the Rams draft, I really like what they were able to do. Just some of the things they're able to do. So you fall back in the second round, you get Taylor Rapp, who I thought was arguably the best safety in the mix, just because of his versatility, his awareness, his toughness, and his ability to deliver big licks over the middle of the field. And then you come back and you get a guy, Darrell Henderson, who is a terrific running back, underrated in this class. And then in the third round, a corner from LA, David Long, who was a local product, stand-up player at Michigan. This is an athletic freak. I think he'll have the opportunity to learn behind Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib should be some solid, productive players in this draft class.
I think Taylor Rapp having an opportunity to learn from Eric Weddle is going to be great.
It's terrific.
Going to be great for his future. With the Oakland Raiders, Mike Mayock in his inaugural draft shocked a lot of folks when he took Clelin Ferrell with the 4th overall selection. But look, he got a rock solid, and he used the term foundational player. Tried to trade back. They weren't able to find a partner. So get the player that you love. They did that there with Ferrell. They got my top running back in Josh Jacobs. They got my top safety in Jonathan Abram. And a lot of size and athleticism littered throughout this draft. I gave them an A overall for their performance. Buck.
Well, no, I think it was a solid draft. And I think the one thing that would be underrated, but you and I know, having worked in scouting rooms, they got a lot of team captains.
Yeah.
A lot of leadership ability, a lot of spectacular football character guys that can change around the culture in that locker room. John Gruden, Mike Mayock wanted to make sure that they get the culture right in the locker room because that's ultimately when the winning happens. And so I commend them for their efforts in the draft to make sure they're able to turn it around.
I'll give an A there to the Oakland Raiders. We get over to the Denver Broncos. Right there with them, I'm going to give them an A- for what the Denver Broncos were able to accomplish. I thought they did a nice job, though, of using the draft board, manipulating the draft, be able to slide down, and to get Noah Fant where they got him in the first round, Buck. Tremendous value. And then Dalton Reisner. You lose a center in free agency and Paradis, and now you've got somebody in Dalton Reisner who could plug that hole, as well as somebody that has 5-position flexibility. And then the other second-round pick, Drew Lock. A lot of folks thought that was an option for them in the first round at pick number 10. They end up getting him with their second-round pick. Why not? Let Joe Flacco take the reins here. If he starts to stumble, they've got a young guy to throw in there.
Yeah, got a young guy to throw in there. And I'm talking about a talented guy to throw in there. And I think they got him at the right spot because now there's not a rush to get Drew Lock on the field. And the best thing that can happen for Drew Lock is he gets an opportunity to sit behind Joe Flacco. He gets to learn the offense without the pressure of having to go on the field and play. But at some point, he can be and will be the franchise quarterback in Denver. And so now it's my turn. I'm going to move on. I'm going to go with the LA Chargers. And I really like what the Chargers have been able to do the last couple of years, but this year in particular, I'm going to give them a B+ for the work that they were able to put in. Jerry Tillery at the top of the board is that big physical player. Yeah. Can rush. I just like, he's a guy that kind of turns on the switch when he walks in between the lines. Nasty player, strong and stout. Also has some pass rush ability. He's going to be terrific up front. But then when you go to the second-round pick, we talk about it all the time, how you got to pair your safeties up so they yin and yang off of one another. Nasir Adderley complements Derwin James. Derwin James now can live in the box where Adderley plays the deep middle. His ability to get over the top, to make plays on the ball. He is a perfect center field free safety. I now believe Gus Bradley has the defense that he envisions when he thinks about that scheme that he made famous in Seattle.
I'm looking at that last pick they had, Cortez Broughton, the defensive tackle from Cincinnati. I was down there at the East-West, Buck, and we saw him dominate that week of practice. He was outstanding, a very good value. And then Easton Stick, you want to take a developmental quarterback who's a great athlete, great kid. I think he'll get an opportunity to learn under Phillip Rivers. I don't know if he's ever going to be a starter. I could see him emerging kind of as that Kellen Clemens type backup for this team.
Yeah, he can be. He can be a long-time backup, but look, he won a lot of games, and I think there's value to having quarterbacks that know how to win games, know how to get their team to the winner's circle. And so what you want to do is you want to continue to build that up, but I think the Chargers are ready to go. They're prime and ready to make a run at the Super Bowl. Another team that is prime and ready to make a run, how about the Kansas City Chiefs? Now, Kansas City, a lot of drama going on the last couple of weeks leading up until the draft. And so I feel like they might have been a little distracted when it came draft day. I give them a C+ for their efforts. Didn't have a first-round pick, traded out the first round, moved back, and then they go and get a receiver in Mecole Hardman, who I like, but I don't know if he's going to be Tyreek Hill.
He's not Tyreek Hill, but he's explosive.
So I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to have an insurance policy in case they have to move on from Tyreek Hill. And this guy is fast, he's explosive, he's productive, does some things that you like on tape. But man, to put him in a situation where he may have some holes to fill, I don't know. I knew he would go maybe second or third round, but now you're banking on him being an immediate contributor. I don't know. I do like Juan Thornhill. I think Juan Thornhill is a solid pick. He can be a guy that can play safety, but you may even be able to kick him out to corner. This is a team that needed some secondary help. They addressed it, but I would like to see him kind of fill some of those needs that they had at the pass rush positions.
Now, let's be honest, Frank Clark adding him was a big-time addition with that first-round pick, trading to Seattle and getting one of the top 5 edge rushers. So you got to add that into their class. The Baltimore Ravens, who a team I gave an A to with what they're able to accomplish, and you're right, that's the way they normally play, rough and rugged, except this draft, well, they did something we've been talking about forever on the Move the Sticks podcast. They built a track team around Lamar Jackson, and it started with their first pick in Hollywood Brown, somebody who's going to be able to take the top off the defense, somebody who you're going to be able to get those little shovels to and those little pitches to, throw him out a little bubble screen and let him go. But some big time speed there in Hollywood. Coming off the foot injury, if he doesn't have the Liz Frank's brain, Buck, I don't think he's there when they pick in the first round. Then they follow that up. You get Jalen Ferguson. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Miles Boykin, another flyer down the field. And the last pick they had I thought was pretty interesting there with Trace McSorley.
Well, I love the Trace McSorley pick because it's just an indication of the times, meaning they're going all in on this read option offense. They want to make sure they have enough quarterbacks that are capable of running it. And then Trace McSorley is a tough guy, a tough physical runner who can make some plays. I like it. I like a lot of what the Baltimore Ravens were able to do.
I like it a lot. I like it a lot. There you go. How about the Steelers?
Look, the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to get back to their identity. Mike Tomlin was intent on making sure he cleaned out the locker room, got some more of their kind of guys. And I think they were able to do that. Made an aggressive move to trade up to get Devin Bush. Devin Bush gives them something that they haven't had since Ryan Shazier had that unfortunate injury. A difference maker inside. This is a sideline-to-sideline playmaker, a guy that can blitz, he can handle the run game, but also can cover. He is everything that you want in the position. And also, their fourth-round pick, Benny Snell. Having Benny Snell to be able to come in and jump in their rotation. Look, he's a carbon copy of James Conner, physical runner inside. I like it a lot.
I like what they were able to do, and I think the Devin Bush pick, we'll elaborate on that in a little bit, but I just love the way that fits together with the needs that they have. How about the Cincinnati Bengals, a team I feel like nobody talks about in this division?
No, nobody talks about them in the division, but they have been a team that has consistently competed and won the division. Zach Taylor takes over for Marvin Lewis, and you can tell he had a thing in mind. He wanted to make sure that they get back to being able to run the football. So they start out with Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams being able to move people off the ball. And I know there was some conversation about he should move inside or is he good enough to play outside. But I think he's a guy that starts out at tackle. And if he fails, they move him inside. And then you look right behind him, Drew Sample, a blocking tight end, another guy that gives them the opportunity to create a new line of scrimmage. And then you finish it up with two running backs that should help them, Travion Williams and Rodney Anderson, two guys that I thought would be drafted higher, but they're really, really good players that are coming to compete for playing time.
Yeah, no doubt. Rodney Anderson would have been long gone if he had been healthy. I'm glad to see him get an opportunity there with the Bengals. Another interesting pick is a little competition here for Andy Dalton now with Ryan Finley joining this club. Ryan Finley's played a lot of football in college, starting off at Boise State, end up at NC State. Very efficient, very accurate. Not going to wow you with any of his skills, Buck, but just a very solid player. In fact, I feel like I'm describing Andy Dalton, so he'll give him some competition there.
Yeah, he will give him some competition. He made a ton of plays, and we talked about being able to connect the dots. I heard you refer to it on another program. You talked about him being Jared Goff light. Well, Zach Taylor's experience tutoring Jared Goff could help him become a much better player than some envision.
No doubt. All right, the Cleveland Browns, this is a team we're always talking about during draft season. Not this year. No high pick for the Cleveland Browns. They go out and they get Odell Beckham, and that's their big acquisition. I gave them a C here for their draft haul. I thought Greedy Williams, were they able to get him? A good value there with the LSU corner. Tall, long, he can play the football. It's been talked about and discussed for months. He's not the most physical guy. They've got to find a way to pull that out of him and get him more involved against the run. You brought up a great point, though, Buck, with me off the air, talking about how being in that building with a couple other LSU alphas and Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry, hopefully they can pull that out of him.
Yeah, I think they can pull that out of him. Now, I would never expect him to be a trained killer on the edge, but I think he's certainly good enough to be a solid tackler. If he's a solid tackler to go with his cover skills opposite Denzel Ward, he should be a very, very good player for them. The Cleveland Browns are lucky because they made so many moves over the last couple of years. They really upgraded their team that this was a draft where they had some luxury picks. Mack Wilson is a luxury pick. Mack Wilson should be a starter in this league. We'll see if he can kind of raise up out the crypt from fifth-round status to being a starter for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, look, this is normally the Browns Super Bowl, not this year. To the Green Bay Packers as we transition over to the NFC North. And the Green Bay Packers had a couple first-rounders, had plenty of needs. And when I look at them overall, the totality of this draft, I dropped a B on them, Buck. I don't think I'm being an easy grader. I think that's a solid B draft.
No, I think it's a solid draft. When you look at Rashawn Gary coming there you see him really emotionally caught up because he heard his name called. He's a guy that gives them some athleticism. I'm still curious to see how they're going to rotate him in because he's going to play outside linebacker. From there, you throw this guy in the mix with the guys that they were able to sign, Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith in the offseason.
They threw something at the pass rush here.
They have enough to throw at the pass rush. And then their next first-round pick, Darnell Savage. Man, Savage is a monster in the back end, a guy who is versatile, instinctive, has the ability to go inside and outside, tough as nails, active. I just like the pick, and so they certainly have upgraded the athleticism on their roster where so those guys can play.
I also like Sternberger, the tight end out of Texas A&M. I thought that was great value. To the Detroit Lions, and your thoughts on what they're able to accomplish.
Matt Patricia wants a blue-collar team, and so the only way you can change the identity of your team is you have to draft those kind of players. First pick embodies the blue-collar mentality that he wants, and that is T.J. Hockenson. T.J. Hockenson is a rough and rugged player. We talk about being able to dominate in the run game. He dominates on the run game on the edge, blows defenders off the ball, controls them, finishes them in a nasty way. But he also gives you the ability to make plays over the middle field in the passing game. Catches the ball well, does a great job of running after the catch. Complete player. I certainly like that pick. I think it goes a long way in solidifying them. And so when I look at the rest of their draft class, still some of those blue-collar players, I think at the end in the 7th round, Isaac Nada is another tight end.
You're not a guy. You've been an Isaac Nada guy, man.
I mean, I'm a little partial, but it's just easy to talk about what they're trying to recreate. They want 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field, so they go and get 2 tough guys to kind of man those positions.
I like what they did there. Also getting a versatile linebacker in Tavai who can play inside and outside. Let's keep this thing moving here. Chicago Bears didn't pick in the 1st round, didn't pick in the 2nd round. I love what they did. I thought they got tremendous value. I gave them a B+. When you're able to get, in my opinion, the 2nd best running back in the draft class in the 3rd round, which they did in David Montgomery, who we both have said on numerous occasions is an upgrade over Jordan Howard and what he had, I think you're doing something right. And then Riley Ridley coming out of Georgia, a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, didn't run as fast as maybe people would have hoped, so he fell. He's the best route runner in the entire draft class, somebody I think is going to have an opportunity to be very productive in this Matt Nagy offense. I think that's a great fit.
That's a great fit. One thing that I like about what Matt Nagy's doing, continue to add playmakers to this offense, is all about elevating the play of the quarterback. And so you get a running back that is really a David Johnson-like player, a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield, can run it and be effective. And then you get Riley Ridley, a big possession receiver that has outstanding route running ability. Mitchell Trubisky should be able to be effective because he has more weapons around him.
All right, Buck. Minnesota Vikings, what do you got?
Skull, look, when we look at the Vikings, it starts at the top with Garrett Bradbury. I talked about a guy being a gold jacket guy, a guy that I think I could see one day being a Hall of Fame type player because he's so solid and productive. Kirk Cousins is the big get. They spent a lot of money to bring Kirk Cousins over, so you get someone in front of him that can protect him. Then the next thing you do is you go get another pass rusher over the middle of the field to make life easy for him. Irv Smith Jr. is the guy that makes it easy. He should be able to dominate down the middle of the field because all of the attention goes to Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. That now leaves a lot of one-on-one situations for Irv Smith working against linebackers and safeties. And there you see it. He wins, he wins, he wins. Should be a very, very productive player inside for the Vikings.
A solid B grade there for the Minnesota Vikings. Let's kick it off here with the Jacksonville Jags. And to me, I gave him an A. I like what they were able to accomplish and really a couple different factors for why they get an A. I love in the 1st round, you have a great player like Josh Allen just fall in your lap. That's a home run. Don't overthink this thing. You can never have too many pass rushers. They missed on Fowler previously. They ended up trading him to the Los Angeles Rams. So come back to get him, put him in that talented front. Jawan Taylor in the 2nd round. Love that pick. We'll have more on that in a little bit. And a very athletic tight end in Josh Oliver.
Yeah, I mean, very athletic tight end. You talk about Josh Oliver coming from San Jose State, a guy that can take the top off the defense, make plays down the middle of the field. But you're right. I like the way that they just didn't overthink this. When good players come to you, fall in your lap, you take them because they only upgrade your roster. That's what the Jaguars were being able to do. I believe the Tennessee Titans subscribe to a similar theory because I think they took a lot of good players that just kind of fell to them for reasons we don't really understand. Jeffrey Simmons being there at 19 is a terrific pick for the Tennessee Titans. Man, he's arguably one of the best, if not the best defender in the draft. Injuries during the offseason kind of led him to slide down the board. But if he comes back right and healthy and plays like the player that we saw at Mississippi State, you're talking about a dominant player at the point of attack, a guy that is a difference maker. In the 2nd round, A.J. Brown. I know we're still trying to figure out if Marcus Mariota can be a franchise quarterback, but regardless, you can never go wrong adding marquee playmakers to your team. He's a marquee playmaker guy that can play inside and outside. Reminds me a lot of Michael Thomas from the New Orleans Saints. We'll see if they can get him on track and allow him to be a difference maker in the passing game.
I like the inside-outside versatility. Nate Davis got a chance to play, I think, early on there on the interior.
They got to fix the stance. They got to get him out there frog stance.
Yeah, I know. We got to fix the stance. They're going to get that done. All right, for more on these two teams, let's send it over to PFF and Steve Palazzolo.
The AFC South had a few strong drafts, but the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars played the game well at the top. The Titans secured 4 potential impact players, starting with interior defensive lineman Jeffrey Simmons, who has top 10 talent and posted 90-plus grades as both a run defender and as a pass rusher last season. Second-round wide receiver A.J. Brown can win both on the outside or in the slot, where he averaged 3.15 yards per route last year, 5th best in the class. Throw in Charlotte guard Nate Davis and Iowa safety Amani Hooker, and the Titans may have 4 starters coming out of this draft. As for the Jaguars, they played it well with Kentucky edge Josh Allen and his nation-high 94.3 pass rush grade falling into their laps while still being able to grab first-round caliber offensive tackle Jawan Taylor in the second. Drafting the best players usually works out over time, and that's exactly what the Jaguars did early in the draft.
All right, thank you, Steve. Let's transition now to the Houston Texans, Buck. A team was desperate for offensive line help. Philadelphia Eagles end up leapfrogging them for, in my opinion, the best left tackle in the draft, and Andre Dillard. I'm going to give them a B- for their overall performance here by Brian Gain and company. I thought they did a nice job getting bigger, longer, more athletic across the board. It starts right there with that first pick, Titus Howard out of Alabama State. Now, a lot of folks, I'm sure, at home didn't spend much time watching Alabama State football. But this is a very long, athletic, talented edge protector who showed in the Senior Bowl, got better each and every day. At that same Senior Bowl, we saw Lonnie Johnson, corner from Kentucky. His value skyrocketed with his performance. You've got Max Sharping, who's got a chance to be a starter before too long as an outstanding prospect coming out of Northern Illinois. Held up quite well against Brian Burns when they faced Florida State.
Yeah, he did hold up well. I think the big thing, this is about Deshaun Watson and protecting the franchise. They want to get 2 tackles so they could shore up the edges and allow Deshaun Watson to do his thing from the pocket. We'll see if those guys can hold up. And then you talked about Lonnie Johnson Jr. being one of the fastest risers up the draft board after his performance at the Senior Bowl. Overall, they hit the traits. They got the length that they wanted. They got the players that they wanted. We'll see if those guys can perform at a high level.
All right, keep it going here. Who's next in the division, Buck?
Here we go. We go with the Indianapolis Colts and what Chris Ballard was able to do with his draft. I thought it was solid. I give it a B+. Rocky Sin at the top of the second round, a guy that is a certifiable starter on the edge, a guy that can get it done. He's tough, he's physical, did a great job transitioning from Presbyterian to going to Temple and starting, and not only starting, but getting a single digit, which signifies that he's one of their toughest players at the skill position. And then coming back, Paris Campbell, also in the second round, a difference maker, a game changer, a guy that can kind of make plays on the perimeter. Bubble screens, fly sweeps, taking the top off the defense. He can do all those things. He will come in handy opposite T.Y. Hilton.
I like Paris Campbell. I'll kick it off here with the Atlanta Falcons, and this was a trenches draft. Didn't know that I saw this coming, but they invested heavily in the line of scrimmage. You look at Chris Lindstrom, their first overall pick. Does he fit every team? No, but he is a perfect fit for what they want to do. His athleticism will play well in this offense, and you couple that together with Caleb McGarry and what they're able to accomplish with a high upside corner in Kendall Sheffield. I give the Falcons a B- for their overall haul here, Buck.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Falcons wanted to continue to upgrade their offensive line. They're the first team that could start out 5 first-rounders on that offensive line.
How about that?
This is to get Matty Ice on track, but more importantly, it's also to get the running game going. When they are at their best, when they went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, it's because they could run it down people's throats, and Matty Ice could also throw it over their heads. We'll see if they can get them protected to be able to continue to play in that manner.
All right, how about the Tampa Bay Bucks?
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it started out with their first pick, Devin White. Devin White kind of fills a need that was created when Quan Alexander left to go to the San Francisco 49ers. They go back to the same school, LSU, and go and get another difference maker. Devin White is an ideal traffic cop. Great communication skills, natural leader, but he's also a tough, physical player against the run and is solid in the passing game. Todd Bowles' defense, they needed somebody in the middle that can make plays. He can make plays. After that, 2 corners, Sean Bunning, saw Jamil Dean, guys that have length, they have speed, and they're going to try and see if they can develop them and get them going. Overall, for me, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get a B-. I like the solid nature of their picks. Not a lot of guys that may upgrade what they have, but guys that can fill spots and contribute right away.
Yeah, I think you look at Devin White's got a chance to be the defensive rookie of the year. That type of talent, that's a special player. All right, let's get to the Carolina Panthers, the team. I gave them a B for what they're able to accomplish. And you look at their first overall pick here, Brian Burns, a team that needed to get the pass rush cranked up. You go back 2 years ago, a lot more production from that group. This past year, it really trailed off. So Brian Burns, a name late in the process, gathered some steam. I heard from teams picking high, trying to trade back to get in range to take Burns. I talked to teams at the bottom of the first round trying to trade up to get Brian Burns. So plenty of teams coveted his skills. Greg Little there in the second round. Will Greer, an interesting choice. The local kid there from Charlotte in the third round. In case Cam Newton's not coming back fully healthy, you need to buy a little time. Maybe Will Greer gets a little run.
Look, first time they've really gone out and tried to draft a backup quarterback that has some developmental potential. You heard Marty Herney's statement where he talked about Cam still being a franchise quarterback. But at some point, you need to have a young quarterback in the pipeline to groom and develop. With Cam's injuries, Will Greer will have an opportunity to get on the field maybe sooner rather than later.
Go to New Orleans here, Buck. What do you give the Saints?
Look, New Orleans, I like what New Orleans has been able to do. Going up and being able to get Eric McCoy is critical. They needed a pivot. They lost their center in the offseason, so now you get to plug someone in. This is a guy that is tough. He's athletic. He's physical. Does a great job of finishing. I like how he plays. In the fourth round, they also went and got someone that I liked a lot, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Natural safety, natural slot player.
He reminded me a little of Malcolm Jenkins.
He does have some of that versatility
Drafted
in
by
his
the same
game.
team.
And look, Sean Payton talked about regretting letting Malcolm Jenkins go. Malcolm Jenkins has gone on to become a very, very productive player for the Philadelphia Eagles. Then you get someone that is a Malcolm Jenkins clone. We'll see if they can unleash him in the secondary to be a difference maker.
Click here to subscribe to the NFL YouTube channel and click here to subscribe to the Move the Sticks podcast.